Hello everyone, Luke here. Now before we talk about the chapter, I'm going to be really brief this week with this introduction. Just want to say one thing. Got myself a Dr. Stone shirt this week. Science. It's like magic, but it's real, and a picture of Senku there. Really wanted this shirt for a while, and now I've actually got it. Very happy money. That's all I wanted to say about that. Go and buy one. You can buy it from Redbubble. Just type in "science like magic but real" into Google. You'll eventually come up with it. Eventually, if you want your own one. Shout out to the artist who actually made that as well. I can't remember what the name was, but big thanks to them. And now we're going to talk about the chapter. Alright, so this will be chapter 208, titled Science Transcends Humanity. Now, interesting cover page this week, as we have three of the most, we have two of the most likely characters, but it's the one at the back that stands out like a sore thumb. It's Taiju, Yuzuriya and Magma. Now, I know why they're included, because these three, they do play quite a pivotal role in this chapter. Magma especially, although I think he should have been more at the forefront of this rather than Taiju and Yuzuriya. But yeah, this is pretty much a Magma chapter. We get quite a lot of development from him, and we'll get into it as we go into the chapter. So it starts off with Sai and Senku just working out every calculation that they can do unimaginable, as Gen and Suika are commenting on it by saying, "Look at all that prepping to pass off the manual labour to Corn City. Senku and Sai are in high spirits. I wonder what they plan to make." Probably that's something involving numbers, Suika. Yeah, probably something like that. But anyway, we cut back to Corn City, where we have Taiju just relaying that, "Oh great, now that we've got the computer going, it must be time for a smartphone." I call back to right at the beginning of the communication arc, where they were going to build the cellular phone in the stone world, and Senku was just remembering of like, "Oh, Taiju, he always wanted a smartphone." It's like, yeah, that's all he could think about. And this is when Senku says, "Oh yeah, I've hadn't heard that line in a while." Obviously, thinking back to the time where it's like, "Yeah, I want a smartphone, Senku." But anyway, continuing on, as we're going back into Corn City, they mentioned that it's not possible just yet. Winding all that wire for the computer is going to take loads of patience and hard work, as we see Luna, who is a surgeon. So I guess healing Senku, that basically qualifies you as the surgeon of the group. You heal the main character, you get the stamp of surgeon. We see Yuzuriya being being part of the handicrafts club. Makes sense for her because she's always making the cloth and everything. She's basically being the seamstress. And then we have Joel, who's being the watch technician, but of course he's in the middle of a lovely lady sandwich there, and he's getting incredibly nervous. And then just off to the side, we see Hyoga, who has a little bit of, I think it's supposed to be string, or no, it's actually meant to be wire. But he's like really shaking, really nervous about it. And then he just looks to Joel, Luna, and Yuzuriya, just like zipping around, getting the work done as quickly as fast. And he's like, yeah, these people were made for the job. So quite a little bit of comedy from Yoga there. But as we know, it's not always going to be smooth sailing for everyone. As we see Magma just getting all upsy teensy about having to slave away on the teeny tiny little donuts that they have to make. Before Ukiyo points out that launching from the Earth to the Moon is like trying for a death-defining hole-in-one in golf. No, it really isn't. This is on a whole nother level, Yukio. Come on. Give it a little bit more credence. This is going to be on a whole nother level. But anyway, to get the structure just right, the stone world needs a real computer, and they're all just freaking out about it. That is never going to happen. Yeah, saying that when they're going to be building a space rocket to the moon, it's like basically saying like, "Oh, you're never going to get a piece of cheese, Mr. Mouse." Yeah, so anything is possible in this series now. But anyway, they bring up that now they're going to be bringing in the Stone World Matholympics tournament, as they're like a contest use of tools is permitted. and they're like, oh, this must be Gens doing motivation for us to make the calculator, and they're like, yeah, like we're going to be a really bunch of gullible kids. Tournaments are great, but forget this crap. Which is what Yo is saying before Miami brings up that the winner is going to get 100 million dragons, and then we just see Yo and Magma just speeding around like, we're going to get this, we're done, we want those dragons, we want those dragons, we want those dragons. Now, we're going to come back to the dragons later on in the chapter, because this is going to be relevant to sort of like what Sai and Ryusui's story is actually going to be about. As we see more men being revived with someone having a 51 tattooed on their shoulder. Is it their left shoulder? So if I turn around, yeah, it's the left shoulder. Is it there? Yeah, it's their left shoulder. It's their left shoulder. So I was trying to work out which shoulder it was actually on then. But we see that obviously they know some of Dr. Brody's people, because as soon as they revive, they're like saluting the guy who's actually reviving them. And then we get a montage, and then we get like a quick cut of Taiju being the master farmer of corn, which based on this chapter, when we get to the end of the series, I could see Taiju being a farmer. That'll be a great job for him to have, just have his own little homegrown farm. I could see him having that. If not, maybe having been a gardener or something. But anyway, we get them saying to Yuzuriya, "You've got the labor force ready to go. Time to make some memory." And they're all just freaking out about that. Oh my god, we're going to be making computer memory. This is going to be the most difficult thing we've ever come across. But yeah, I'm just going to make this a regular running gag here every time Yuzuriya pops up in a chapter. Yuzuriya, that headband is still making me suspicious. I'm on to you, Yuzuriya. You're in cahoots with the Y-Man. That headband is giving out radio waves. The Y-Man is listening in. Why else would he know what Senku's voice looks like? That headband has been around Senku since his childhood. That headband's been picking up radio waves. The Y-Man's been on the moon since Senku's childhood. That headband's been picking up radio waves, so he knows Senku's voice. He knows everything about Senku, and the 5-hour rocket explanation that he gave to Yuzuriya at one time in their flashback. I completely went off topic there, but I don't care. Seriously, that headband is just freaking me out now, because it got petrified all those times, and yet it's still being like. Is it attached to her head? Like, seriously, Inagaki, Boichi, tell me, what is the deal with Yuzuriya's headband? What is the deal with Yuzuriya's headband? What is the deal with Yuzuriya's headband? Okay, I'm gonna calm down now. So yeah, what is the deal with Yuzuriya's headband? Can someone let me know? Anyway, continuing on. Sorry, I went off a bit of tangent then, but I'm going to just be making that a little bit of joke now. My little bit of running gag that Yuzuriya's headband is like the source of Y-Man's power, because it gets petrified even though nobody's clothes gets petrified. So like, what the hell is with it? But anyway, going on, we cut back to India, where we see Chroma and Sai discussing what the memory actually is. As Sai goes, basically a way to record and store data. Without memory, a machine has no way to remember numbers. Pretty standard stuff for anyone who knows the basics about electronics. Like, without memory, like, this was one of the first things that I said would have to be addressed. Like, memory would have to be the thing that comes up, because without memory, the computer cannot not even begin to fathom the amounts of calculations that they were going to be experimenting with to actually get to space. But anyway, he goes on and says, which leaves us with us unable to perform complex calculations. You've got a circuitry that thinks and a circuitry that remembers. Put them together, and we have a high-powered computer capable of crazy math. And we see him just getting like really excited. I think obviously channeling his inner Ryusui there, his desire for a computer, and see this computer come to life in the stone world. And we get some pretty funny reactions here, as we get Taiju's just getting really excited about this. We get Yuzuriya, who's like, I know hard work's going to be involved in this. And then we get Magma, who's just like, oh crap, do we have to continue going on about this? But anyway, But anyway, Sai is not exactly sure either, but semiconductors would help, but without them, there's basically no way that they're going to be able to create memory as powerful as some of the modern day computers that we have in the 21st century. So Senku's next best thing is to use magnets. As we get them faxing in like instructions to Core City about what is actually going to be having to get on, and Yukio's like, heads up guys, Senku's sending the memory crafting instructions by fax, and Yo's like, is this really nice and simple, really? Before I have Yukio explain that, so we take the iron oxide Brody cooked up for us and zap it with strong electrical currents. That gives us a magnet. Shoot the current the other way and save the number either a 1 or a 0. We can do that by swapping polarimetries north and south. So one of these little magnets can store 1 or a 0 in 1 or a 0 area, and this just completely goes over. This completely like well, it doesn't necessarily go over Magma's head, but it's just like, it's that easy. And he starts basically laughing his ass off, and he's like, so what? Even the biggest dummy around that could remember 1 or 0. Why are we making a machine that does that for us? So yeah, say what you will about Magma, but given the fact that it's Magma asking these questions, it's pretty amazing how he's asking these pretty legitimate questions for someone of his caliber. Because remember, at the beginning of the series, Magma was just like the lunging guy who was like ooga booga caveman type guy, but the fact that he's being exposed to this scientific know-how, he's like asking legitimate questions that someone in his position would be legitimately asking. So gotta give credit where credit is due on Magma's part. It's like at the beginning, it's like the climax of South America, where he was like trying to activate the Medusa that was being guarded by Brody and his forces, and even though Yo was pointing out like you have to be right up close and personal with it in order to activate, the fact that Magma did that as opposed to like, I'm just gonna bash their heads in, you gotta give credit on his part. Like, he's becoming a little bit more less aggressive when it comes to people. Like, I'm just gonna bash them in, ask questions later. He's being like, okay, a little bit tactful in that position of like, okay, we have a Medusa, it can petrify people if you state the location, distance and time, so I'm going to try this out. Now, it didn't work obviously, but the fact that he was willing to try that shows some ingenuity on his part. Ukio continues on to explain to Magma that that's what one of them can do, but combining a whole bunch is when the real magic happens. That should be nothing new to you since you've seen the Kingdom of Science in action. And then we see Yuzuriha just rapidly make together a circuit board, which makes sense for her because she's just always rapidly making stuff herself. Like remember back in the Age of Exploration when she was making cloth for the air balloon, and she just went into her berserker mode of just making that balloon. Everyone was like, whoa, she is a completely different person when she is sewing, when she's in action in that part. They go on to continue saying, for example, say you want to save to this magnet, it's in column 3 and row 2, so you just send the electrical current through those wires, and this is when Chrome is actually starting to get it as well. Only the spot where the current crosses gets a bad zap, a real strong one, which means only that magnet gets records as either north or south. And this is where Senku obviously gives his statement of like, this is 10 billion points to you, Chrome, you got it right. Stupidly primitive but sound and reliable. Space shuttles and F-15 fighters once used this method, so small armies of talented tailors had to labour day and night to weave these little nets. So get a little bit of history of there, exactly how some space shuttles and aircraft carriers were actually conducted firstly by basically weavers, which is basically what the Kingdom of Science in Corn City is actually doing at this point in time. Kimu says that, so our mission is to sew a fast quantity of these little rings together before Carlos, Max and Luna are basically discussing how much of a fast quantity are we actually talking about here, and they're like, did he say something like 200,000? And Luna's like, oh, it's not going to be a big deal for us, especially for me, because I am the capable girl, Luna. I'm always capable of stuff like this. So really, what's the worst that could happen? You're about to find out in the next page, Luna, exactly how bad it's going to be. As Yuzuriya says, the 2,000 is for the donuts that need to be wrapped in wire. And as for the magnet weaving work, 30 million of them. So we've gone from 200,000 to 30 million. You know, I was talking to Party Jams earlier on Discord about this chapter, and yeah, eventually we are going to get to a point where it's all gonna come full circle, and Senku's gonna be like, "You didn't think I was saying 10 billion% for nothing? There is a reason why I was saying 10 billion." Now, if this actually comes into fruition, that Senku requires 10 billion of something, I will just be so happy that's just been a running thing throughout the series, just leading up to a certain moment, like just being foreshadowing again and again and again. If that's the case, that's going to be the biggest amount of foreshadowing ever. Oh my god, I love this series so much. But yeah, the thing that I could honestly see that actually being the case is like little nuts and bolts on the spaceship itself. Like, yeah, we need 10 billion of these nuts and bolts for this gigantic spaceship that we're building in the stone world. So that's the only way I can actually figure it out to being 10 billion. That's the only thing I can think of. But anyway, one thing I've got to give credit on as well is just the comedy timing on these faces, like from Luna, Yo, but especially Yuzuriya, because I've been rereading some of the earlier points of the series, especially in the Age of Exploration, and it's amazing how funny of a reaction that Yuzuriya can have just with her facial expressions. And it's like, oh my god, Yuzuriya is quite a funny character. But anyway, we see them a little while later going, so we're done now. Sort of these horizontal and vertical grinds are for saving data, but to load data we need more wire passing across every grind in diagonal. And Luna is just getting freaked out, like so much hard work here. Before we see Yukio and Joel going over what looks like vacuum tubes and saying, now official way to show the numbers in order to, in other words, the display we're going to need oh no, they're not vacuum tubes, they're Nike tubes apparently. Yeah, that is literally what Yukio says, like Nike tubes apparently. Bend wire into shape of numerals and fill the tube with gas so that an electrical current makes the right wire glow, which is what Joel is explaining. He's explaining how these Nike tubes actually work, and because it's like delicate work like this is my domain compared to watchmaking. This little trinket is like taking candy from a baby for him, and sure enough, he creates like number Nike tubes 0 to 9. Basically, that's basically the amount he channels. As we see, quite an interesting contrast from him, because at the beginning of the chapter when he was in between Yuzuriya and Mayari, he was like really nervous about that being in the middle of that lady sandwich that he had. But now that he has Taiju and Magma there alongside Yuzuriya, who's the only female there, he's kind of a little bit less nervous. So maybe that's a little bit of development on his part, like finding out that yeah, he can once he's spent some time around people, he can be a little bit less nervous about them. I actually want to find out more about his backstory, and also about a few other backstories, like Gen's backstory, Francos' backstory, like particularly Francos. Like, I want to know exactly how she came into the service of the Nanami Corporation, or how they came into the service of the Nanami Corporation. I'm sorry, Francois. Gotta respect your preference. You like to be called a day, so we've got to respect the preference of that character. So I like to see them how they came into the Nanami Corp. But anyway, eventually they get a certain part of the calculator going, which is like this big round discular donuts that basically like the donuts that they became, just on a more massive scale. A little while later, they mentioned that they have enough fuel for them to actually start sailing off from India, and Now, I'm not sure in this moment whether they're actually on the Indian Ocean or if they're still just getting prepared to actually go from India. And a lot of people are getting a little bit nervous, like, oh, they're speeding through Math City. But my theory, I'm just going to put my phone down for a second. My theory is that India is not going to be the only place for Math City. Like, there's going to be like other places to have Math City. Like, they could go to Egypt and look at hieroglyphics in Egypt and count that as part of Math City, or they could go to England, still go to university there, count that as part of Math City. I think Math City is going to incorporate a whole bunch of like cities, kind of sort of like how the United States in general incorporates various states in and of itself. So while America, like the USA, is considered like one big country or one big continent, like North America is considered one continent, and the USA is considered one country. You also have like the little states of America that could be in of itself considered countries themselves. I reckon that's going to be something like this. Like, we're going to have the United States of Math City, basically. That would be quite interesting if we had like various countries that are under the same banner of Math City, kind of like what America has. Like, it has a whole bunch of states under the same banner of America. So I kind of like that. Or the continent, or the math continent, which consists of various cities in countries that are all over the world, like or like I'm saying, like what I'm saying, like you might have Egypt, who might have the Egyptian Math City. You might have England, who have the English Math City, or India, who have the Indian Math City, but they're all under the banner of Math City, or the United countries of Math City. So that would be quite interesting if we actually get that, because in this chapter we don't have Math City formed, or Math City acquired, or Math City established like we had with Super Alloy City or Corn City. So it'll be interesting to see if we're actually still going to go to other countries, but they're still going to be part of Math City. Let me know what you think about that. Anyway, continuing on, Gen says the Indian Ocean crossing is perfect for the new World Math Olympics. Again, I think, like I said, I think they're not going to be going to Rubber City or Aluminium City quite yet. I feel like they're going to be going around to other places on the way. Maybe going to Africa, like I said, going to Egypt. That'll be something that we'll just have to wait until the next chapter before we find out exactly what is going to be going on with Math City. But anyway, Suika points out that it looks like again it's up to something, as we get the mathematicians, which are Chrome, Senku, Sai, and they're like, oh, the obvious winner is going to be Sai, but of course in Corn City they're going to be having Magma, and they're like, Magma? Seriously? Magma of all people? And even Magma's like, what have I gotten myself into, as he has Nikki right there. It's like, are you going to hurt me, miss? But Nikki's like, don't worry, Magma, you've got this. You've got this. But yeah, Magma is just like completely freaking out here. It's like, why am I being picked here to be a mathematician? Like, because again, it's Magma we're talking about here. Like, I've got to repeat that. It's Magma that we're talking about here. But anyway, yeah, and also we cut to Super Alloy City very briefly as we get Ginru basically pointing out what I've just been pointing out here by saying why Magma is gotta be the worst at maths out of all of them, and but Sinu has a little bit more faith in Magma, because being the worst at it is precisely why it was Magma picked. But Ginru's like not getting it at all. Before Gen gives out the question, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I think this math equation is 9 trillion, 99 billion, 99 billion, I think, 520 million, 4,154. So I think that's how it goes, that math equation. Divided by 10,583 times by 293,719, divided by 2,239 times by 67,071, and Chrome's like, there's no frigging way we can figure this out. And yeah, I had a hard time figuring out the 99 billion, if that is really what it is, 99 billion. But as everyone is just like figuring out the number and everything, we see Sai, who's just, like, Party Jams actually did point this out to me. We see Sai just scribbling around everywhere, on paper, and he's been doing this throughout the chapter. So Party Jams reckons that because now we've got the calculator sorted, we're actually going to be moving on to the next part of the computer, or the next part of the roadmap on the road to the spaceship. So he's actually probably figured out codes and calculations to actually get to the next step on the big roadmap to the spaceship, or unless he was thinking about the computer. Hopefully he'll correct me in the comments. But anyway, with Ukio's help, Magma, of all people, is able to give out the correct answer, which is 827 billion. Yeah, 827,401,136,558. So, and everyone is like, yeah, that is actually the correct answer. Magma, well done. That is basically what everyone is saying here. As Kawaku says, the fearsome brains on our side were outdone in an instant. And this is where we get a little bit of a creepy image of here. I'm going to bring it up here. Notice something strange about that panel with Magma against the giant calculator. Yeah, notice the shape of the moon. Yeah, it's almost as if the Y-Man is smiling down on Magma. Smiling down in a little bit of a creepy way there. So yeah, gonna have to keep our eyes on that. Like, just images of the moon now. I'm just gonna be keeping my eye on the moon whenever it shows up in a panel. But anyway, this is basically Magma's, like, this is the power of science moment. Like, kind of like what Kimu had when he's got his glasses, or when Kokyo, Kohaku, and Rui's father got when he got the katana when they were fighting Yoga. They both had that. This is the power of science. This is the power of science moment. And Magma has this moment here. Like, so that's what a computer does. Which, like I said, really good characterization on Magma's part, because, like I said at the beginning of the series, he was basically the definition of an Oonga Booga caveman person. But now that he's had the world open, like Senku promised him, like, he would show him a ton of stuff that would make his head spin. And Magma was like, I'm going to be by you, Senku, but you better not be showing me anything claim, because otherwise I'm going to kill you, even though he's not going to do that now. Now, like I've been saying, I could see Magma pretty much at the end of the series becoming a mayor of one of these new cities that are going to be established. Not necessarily Corn City, but, like, say, if they went to somewhere, if they did go back to Japan, like, he becomes the mayor of a city that's not Ishigami Village, but that's situated in Japan, which would make sense for his character and be a nice cap off for his character, because he kind of got what he wants, be a leader of a village or a town or something. So that'll be a nice cap off for his character. But this chapter gave us a little bit of insight into Magma, and starting to see science for what it truly is, and what incredible inventions it can create. And as we get the caption calculator acquired, we get Ryusui going, "This day marks a major milestone for the science of our new world. Amazing to come this far in the stone world." And Senku agrees with him. Something made from scratch by people can end up transcending the human mind. That's enough reason to get excited. And that's basically, again, one of the key messages of Dr. Stone. Is like, even though people die and are no longer part of this world, their legacy through what their inventions create can be passed on and transcend the mind, and basically evolve into something far beyond what they originally intended, and what their original capacity was able to allow, in not just their own mind, but also in the time period of the world. Because we've had computers since, like, the 1950s, 60s, 70s, but now we have these advanced computers that can basically do amazing things like edit videos, YouTube as well. Like YouTube has evolved far beyond what I think the original creators originally intended it to be, and it's become like a multi-million-dollar company at this point. Under the banner of Google, obviously. But again, like, just the invention, even though the people die, the inventions lived on, and they can transcend human mind itself. And that's the brilliant thing of science itself, as a lot of the characters are starting to see that. And like I said, one of the key messages to take away from this chapter and the series itself, as we see, as we get them going on to say, so there's 30 million magnets in there. We didn't work that quickly, and there's just a few thousand, which is what Taiju says. This is what Taiju, Miami, and Yusubia said. As Taiju says, dang, if that's what a few thousand gets us, just imagine the finished product. Yeah, I cannot wait for the finished product. But Yo reminds them, like, hey, I still want my Dragos. I still want my my 100 million Dragos. But Ryusui ain't here to cough up the dough. And Francos is like, worry not, we'll pay you via direct bank depository, as Ryusui Bank is open for business. And Yo's like, direct deposit? How? That's big. And Miami's like, that's big talk, but we could run a bank at this point. We need a way to recover and calculate people's balance. As we get them basically setting up a bank just on the spot, and they say, bank acquired, and that's where the chapter ends. But I want to talk about what Nikki and Yukio say, is that we've still got some nasty labour ahead of us. The prize money from the contest will basically be our wage for the job. Yeah, basically it will, because you now got a bank set up. So basically bringing the economy back. Now, the chapter itself, really good. Got really good insight into how Magma's doing and how he's evolving as a character, and what the next step is on building the computer to actually get the spaceship to the moon. Now, a theory that's been popping up again recently is that the Nanami Corp is going to be playing a role coming up soon, as sort of like an antagonist to Ryusui and Sai, and this is the perfect opportunity to do that, because now that they've brought back a bank, they could honestly revive one of the big Nanami Corporation head honchos, and basically they see the Dragos and they're like, right, I'm going to capitalize on that. Ryusui, I want those Dragos, and Ryusui like, screw you, and he's like, right, if you're going to be that, I'm going to take it by force if we're going to have to do this the hard way, Ryusui. And that may lead to a capitalism war in Dr. Stone, which could work, couldn't work, could work, could work, or it couldn't work. We'll just have to wait and see. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got to say on this chapter. So what do you guys think of it? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lashaluk signing off. Later, guys.